And Steve, this podcast is called My Seven Chakras, right? And when you think about the chakras, what you think about especially is the root chakra or the pelvic region of the body. And so maybe if you could talk about our pelvic region and what's the significance of this region when it comes to emotional healing and using the breath to let go or to reprogram or whatever that might be. What's the significance of the pelvic region in our evolution?
Wow, what an interesting question. You're asking me what is the significance of the pelvic region? Anybody that doesn't know the chakra system and the pelvic floor, or also known as the mulabanda, that's a real interesting question you're leading here with, buddy. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. So this is really interesting, actually. And I just love all these topics. Oh my goodness, I love them. So your pelvic floor, for you that don't know, it's a isolated muscle that basically exists between your genitals, basically, and your anus. And it's a very specific muscle. And the cool thing is that it's directly tied to your central nervous system. And so you can actually alter your physiology just by using that muscle. So example, you can raise and lower your heart rate. Like you could shoot your heart rate through the roof just by using that pelvic floor. And then when the heart rate raises like that, the sympathetic nervous system gets activated, and then comes the release of adrenaline. And so just sitting down, you can learn how to lock and pull that muscle, and it's actually going to give you a natural shot of energy. And so it's really, really cool. It's also going to have a direct correlation to your body temperature. So like Wim Hof, that's what Wim Hof does to stay warm. Obviously, there's a mental aspect to it that's very important. Your nervous system needs to become strong to handle super cold, temperatures in water. But any of you that do ice bath, so and myself, and I'm sure a lot of listeners, do you guys take cold showers, or do you go into an ice plunge, something of that nature? And if you haven't, I highly recommend that you do. But when you get into the ice, one of the first things that you should do is lock that pelvic floor muscle and use a breathing rhythm. So like in for 2 and out for 1, breathing in more than you're breathing out. This is because we need to raise the heart rate, activate the sympathetic nervous system. This is not the proper way to breathe on a daily basis. This is too much oxygen, and we're not holding enough CO2. But if you're in ice and you need to raise your body temperature, then you breathe in twice as much as you breathe out. And then you just do that for a few seconds, maybe 10 breaths. And then you lock this root, this pelvic floor, and boom, your body temperature is going to rise. Your heart rate's going to increase. Sympathetic nervous system gets activated, and you can sit in the ice, no problem. So I encourage you guys, I challenge you to use this method, and you'll be blown away on how much it actually helps. And the other interesting thing too is that, so prana, right? Every breath is an electric energy. Okay. We are electric beings. We're energy beings. Okay. We have trillions of atoms and cells, and they hold an electrical charge. Okay. And so we can move this prana and this charge, okay, this electrical energy or charge, we can move it around the body as we breathe. Your breath is circular. So you're going to be circulating this energy. Okay. And the other interesting thing here is that when you build up that energy, and this is what we do in SOMA, is you use the breath to build up your level of vibrational energy, to charge it up. This is why visualization is so powerful in SOMA, is because you create visualizations and then you charge yourself up, your feelings, your emotions, you charge it up with the rhythmic breathing. And then what you do is if you hold your breath in, okay, and then lock that pelvic floor muscle after you've generated this heavy charge, what you're going to do is you're going to create an upward pressure. And now you're going to increase the blood flow to your most important organ, which would be your brain, one of the most important organs. So yeah, this part of your, body It needs oxygen. It needs blood flow to be able to survive. Okay. If you have too less of oxygen, then you can damage brain cells. So it's important that we provide that. So using this pelvic floor muscle after charging yourself up with breathing is going to increase that nutrients, that blood flow, which is carrying oxygen to your brain. Okay. The other interesting thing with this is that when you breathe, you move cerebral spinal fluid. Okay.
Mhm.
And this is a protector for the brain. And it's also a triggering activator for your pineal gland and your pituitary. So when you move that cerebral spinal fluid around and then you hold your breath in, okay? And because every time you breathe in and out, your spine moves a little bit and it actually works the cerebral spinal fluid up. This it's a really, really important aspect of our bodies. And then when you hold your breath in and lock that pelvic floor, then all of that rises up and ends up in your pituitary. So the cerebral spinal fluid hits the pituitary gland, and there's a pressure of some sort, and this is actually then going to trigger the pineal, and this is why you have sometimes these almost psychedelic experiences because it's the combination of oxygen, blood flow, cerebral spinal fluid, and using that pelvic floor muscle. And this just increases this energy, activating the master gland. Your pineal is your master gland for your entire endocrine system. So this is a very important part of your health and your happiness is your pineal. Okay. And so when you can give it good nutrients like that by using the pelvic floor after charging up the energy, this is huge for your creativity, your focus, the release of feel-good hormones. I mean, I love it. I love saying, what was it? You can actually manufacture your own happiness.
Hmm.
One of our testimonials, there's a guy that says, wow, I felt like I just manufactured my own happiness. And that really stuck with me. But when you learn about how you can activate these glands, these hormones, these neurotransmitters, all by changing the oxygen, the CO2, using the pelvic floor muscle, it's amazing how you literally can manufacture your own happiness. It's amazing. It really is. So,
Yeah, it's really fascinating because for somebody who is listening, to this show right now, this podcast right now, we've been told for the longest time, especially as we're growing up, that we have little to no control over our autonomic nervous system, right? The aspects and the functioning of our body, whether it's blood pressure, heart rate, our body temperature, and the chemicals that our body can secrete. But like we're finding out, using breath work and using certain breath work techniques, we're actually able to influence our entire physiology depending on what outcome we're hoping to achieve. So, for example, many of our listeners know that on January 2nd, I'm doing a polar plunge into the oceans here in Vancouver, and it's pretty cold here. But I'm doing that firstly to push beyond my comfort zone. But guess what we're going to do before we go into the cold waters is we're going to do the same breathing technique 2 by 1 to generate some inner heat, raise the body temperature, visualize the outcome. So visualize getting into the cold water and actually being in the water and coming out vibrant, energized, really inspired, charged up, and ready to start the day. But the point through all of this explanation is to realize that you are fully in control of your life. And by just learning certain techniques and mantras and mudras and locks and ways to hold your body and breathe, you are in effect taking control of your life.